Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday. It is the Earthmaster here on this March 19th, 2024 date, about 11:16 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity looks like a 4.6 here across the southern zone here of the subduction area, eastern edge of the Caribbean plate. We'll check that out here in just a second. Real quick, I started up a new channel devoted to nature, wildlife, and weather. So if you guys are interested in that stuff, I'm going to try and keep it limited to this channel right here, Nature Watcher. TEM is the channel. Go check it out and subscribe, please. I appreciate the folks that have subscribed and jumped on board. We'll definitely add some more videos as I grow this channel. All right, looking at the latest activity here from the Iceland region, still showing some fountaining going on here, and also some decent cone building. Very decent. This is ongoing now for 4 days now. So this is the longest eruption here of the past three that's taken place here across the Reykjanes Ridge over the past few months. So obviously I don't see any signs of it slowing down right now. I was just checking out the activity here across the area of the Svartsengi region on this site, the Icelandic site here, the news source here. The land is continuing to rise out there around the Svartsengi area, so it's possible that we could see this thing continue for quite some time as long as we're continuing to build up the amount of magma below into this reservoir. So I think it's just continuing to supply the area, the magma intrusion area, which is just to the northeast of Grindavik. Let me blow this up here a little bit so you guys can see a lot of rise in the elevation out here over the last couple days. And that's there in the red. Notice that it is, of course, working its way over here. Not so much down across the Grindavik area, which is good. There's always still concern about maybe seeing some eruptive activity. But I think right now we're focused on this main area. This reservoir that sits underneath the Svartsengi area, again, is expanding and getting further in magma accumulation. It hasn't dropped. So as long as this thing goes up, we'll continue to supply the magma out here around the magma intrusion area, and it will be an interesting scenario to see how long this lasts. It's not quite out to sea. It has slowed down, but as you can see, the most recent trail here of lava, as you can see in the red, is from this ongoing eruption very close here to the sea. I was just checking it out on the where's another site here. This site right here kind of shows it as well. Not colorful, but it is in the light gray right here. Again, a ways from the sea, about 500 meters or so it looks like. It's slowly going down. Also the northern edge up here, as you can see, it's following the old lava field that happened back in, well, this most recent, was it back in January, I think, when we've seen this activity get close here to the Blue Lagoon. But this is a barrier right here north of the Blue Lagoon and the power plant that sits out here. So that is, looks like it's, hasn't quite touched the barrier, but it's just following the natural flow, so to speak, here of the land and the elevation. And should that continue, it looks like we'll just head off to the west, which is good. So no new, bad news in terms of damage potential out there. Just an ongoing event in terms of the activity. So let's back out of here real quick and see what these guys have to say. This is the latest update put out this morning. The eruption now lasted longer than the last three eruptions. This is translated into English, so some of this may be a little off, but looks like everything's stable. The power of the eruption, meaning the output of the lava, has not decreased. Land rise continues in the Svartsengi area, which indicates that magma is still flowing from depth into the magma accumulation zone under Svartsengi, as well as feeding the eruption. So, like I just mentioned here, as long as we continue to see that inflow of magma this eruption could go on and on for a little bit. So we'll have to watch that. Eventually, it's going to make it out to the sea. Just going to take a little while. Let's see here. Crater rims, that crater, the coning, so to speak, there that you've seen on the live cam, continues to build, and some magma jet activity remains. The edge of the lava flow, which was about 300 meters from this area yesterday, does not seem to have moved forward since yesterday. So things are very slow, but we're still getting that active activity there from those vents. So we'll continue to watch that, see if things get sent out to sea in terms of the southern flow. But I don't know. Definitely slow, right? Slow and easy is the lava flow right now, but we're continuing to see that output. Yeah, so that's the latest information there. And as I just showed you guys, it's definitely kicking up here again, or it has been kicking up. But it's interesting to see these beautiful lava domes here, these craters that are popping up. A lot of times these things will actually collapse in on themselves and make a neat little splash there in the hot lava. Let's see what else we got here for a different webcam. Is this number 2? Yeah, this one's a little bit more stable, not quite as jumpy as this one right here. But either way, the Iceland activity continues, and it's something to watch for sure, as long as we got that further inflow of magma from below. Here's the Svartsengi area. GPS does show, some type of depletion here from the original eruption here a few days ago, but it does look like we're kind of up on the inflation since then. Not a sharp rise up, but this right here is showing me that it's not continuing to go down. It's staying a little steady with occasional pulses there of uplift, indicating recharging of the magma system underneath the Svartsengi area. So we'll definitely continue to watch that, right? Goodness. Ever changing. Our world is ever changing. So outside of St. George here, we got a 4.6 coming in just within the last 40 minutes or so. This is the southern end here of a major subduction zone, 136 kilometers for that 4.6. Now this area can see some big-time quakes. I'm going to pull up here an earthquake catalog here. We'll do a little search here to show you guys how the activity looks in this region. I'm going to draw a little rectangle out here on the map. And again, this is not part of the Puerto Rico Trench. Puerto Rico Trench sits up here. This area of interest is where these island chains are. Just want to see what we got in terms of historical data in this area. It's been a little while since we've seen any big-time earthquakes. But a 7.3 here just north of the area. So you get these big earthquakes here on the subduction area. 7.3 back in 1953. Kingstown area seen a 6.1 back in 1940. Closer to the St. George area, 1987 was a 5.2. But as you can see here, large earthquakes are very common. The last one, at least specifically around the subduction zone, looks like it was 2007 for a 7.4, a little bit closer up north here of the Granada Basin area, north of St. George's. But prior to that, goodness, back in the 50s and 60s, and so we got a little bit of time that has passed out here since we've seen any major activity. But for now, as listed up here on the map, got a 4.6 coming in. This one's fairly deep, the southern end of the subduction zone area. So we'll continue to watch that and report on any further quake activity out there. All right, what else we got out here across the area? There's some movement there in the Kermadec Islands yesterday. I think we had some more activity there today, though. Well, actually, I take that back. Doesn't look like it. New Zealand did see looks like a 3.2 early this morning, just after midnight my time. We're starting to fill in here across this quiet zone. You guys remember this quiet area out here for the past week or so? Well, we're getting a couple more quakes out there. Looks like some fours stirring up here around the Solomon Islands. USGS reporting one of those as a 4.5 about 7 o'clock this morning. This one's fairly deep, though, at about 185 kilometers. So we're continuing to build some deeper activity out here, which could be a good sign of some further large-scale surface adjustment. Now, it looks like we did see a 4.8 listed on the map a short time later. See this 4.8 about 7:39. So deeper activity prior to that at about 7 o'clock. So about half an hour or so later, we've seen some surface adjustment going on further along that plate boundary. So that's something we got to watch. It has been awfully quiet there. So we need to keep an eye on that region for some larger scale movement. Let's go up north and see what we got going on here for the Japan area. I think this is from yesterday. A little 4.6 out there. Really don't see too much going on up there today across the northwestern corner of the Pacific Plate. Some clustering going on around Taiwan southward, but this is always typical. This is the crunch zone where all these plates tend to crunch up against, right? Look at all these arrows pointing towards each other. From the Eurasia Plate moving to the southeast to the Pacific Plate moving off to the northwest. So the crunch zone is what I call it, and that's where we see a lot of earthquake activity on any given day. But no major activity to report for now, just some fours around Taiwan southward, and the Java Trench fairly quiet, aside from some smaller quakes here recently. 4.1 coming in way up north here. USGS not reporting it. It does look like it's up around the China area. That's a fairly recent earthquake. And some movement across the Mediterranean today. Nothing big going on for now. 3.5 down south here. That's a kind of an odd earthquake. Not really reporting it on the USGS, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Those smaller quakes. But near the Madagascar area, looks like some earthquake activity coming in with a 3.5, fairly recent quake. South America, a handful of clustering going on. Middle America Trench as well. Way up north into the Alaska area, looks like they've seen some movement this morning. A little bit of interesting activity here across the plate boundary. 4.5 coming in about 9 o'clock this morning. Looks like we did have a couple other smaller quakes there prior to this 4.5, so that tells me right here regional strain in the area is elevated across that region of the Gulf of Alaska. Into the Pacific Northwest, not a whole lot going on. A little bit of smaller quake activity across the, looks like the western edge here of the Seattle fault zone. Been getting some activity here recently, and there's a little chat about this area, seeing some damaging earthquake activity here in the future potential. And that's not good for the folks there in Seattle, as that fault system runs directly underneath Seattle. Further down south across northern California, aside from the geysers, let me get rid of those off the map. I had a couple ones coming in here, even a two or so there in the Redding area. But for the most part, a lot of this activity here from yesterday there outside of Eureka. Not a whole lot going on through the Reno area for now. Remember those earthquake swarms that have been coming in there around the Steamboat area? That's disappeared, so we're not really seeing anything elevated out there for now. Further south into the Bay Area, a handful of smaller quakes there, but we got one pointer near Gilroy. That is off of the Calaveras fault zone, and a couple smaller quakes there along the creeping segment of the San Andreas fault, although most of these from yesterday. It looks like we did see another 1.5 in that mix of quake activity. We'll continue to watch that. Ridgecrest area, still seeing some earthquake activity out here. It looks like, could be some aftershock activity from the earthquakes that happened a few years back. The July 4th and July 5th sequence of earthquakes out here. It does look like it's within that same fault zone where we had seen those earthquakes there a few years back. The rest of Southern California, not seeing anything major. Did have a little earthquake activity north of Los Angeles with a 2.3 early this morning. No major swarms going on out here for now. Some slight activity outside the area here near the Alamo, Nevada area. off Highway 7. A couple threes coming in there from yesterday and even one today. So some slight adjustment going on here across this area of Nevada. Yellowstone National Park, looks like one little reported earthquake up here from yesterday. Let's double check that though and see what we got for the latest activity. Not really seen too much. This activity right here, it's hard to say if this is earthquake activity or maybe some type of outside interference. Now, it did show up. It does look like it's showing up here across the borehole area as well. If it is earthquake activity, it's a bunch here in a short amount of time span. But I'm not seeing it on Lake Butte. I'm really not seeing it on any other seismograph stations locally nearby, aside from these two. So I'll have to watch it, dig around a little bit deeper, and see if that's just maybe some outside interference. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Aside from that, no obvious earthquake activity, aside from one little spike there from last night. All right, what else we got out here for the rest of the country? Oklahoma had some shaking going on out there in Oklahoma. Quite a few folks felt it. Quite a few folks didn't. It's actually a little interesting here because some people reported some strong shaking from this, while others nearby felt absolutely nothing. That could have something to do with the depth of the earthquake, but looking over here, they're not very shallow. About 6 kilometers or so in this area. Now, there's a whole bunch of new housing developments out here, and prior to that, there was some oil fields, quite a bit of oil fields out here, so they're getting hit with this new community housing out, or new housing development out here. It's just a little odd here for that some folks felt it and some didn't. Just very strange. 2.6, I believe, is the magnitude. That just seems a little odd. Some people reported it being a little bit stronger than that, but it was centered mostly around the Edmond area, outside the OKC region. Definitely been getting some earthquake activity out there recently, out in these oil fields. And, you know, sometimes you never know that there was oil fields out there because there's a lot of housing development out here now. Texas area, around Pecos, Texas, still seeing some activity. It never stops out there. And when it does, that's a time to be on guard. I just want to show you guys the last 30 days of earthquake activity out here around Pecos, Texas specifically. Got about 385 earthquakes. You think it'd be sitting on a major plate boundary, but it's not. It's kind of trailing out here. You can see this trail of activity stretching down towards the Davis Mountains area. A lot of times these oil fields and wastewater disposal facilities can activate old fault systems, but if you look here on the satellite view, there's nothing but oil fields out here in the desert. Quite a few of these, got to zoom in here a little bit closer to see these areas. Wastewater disposal ponds, and there's many of them, many throughout this area. Some may have been erased, some may be in new development, but you know, you got these facilities out here, these little pads with wastewater disposal facilities, and then you see the earthquake activity. So no doubt, and look over here, it's just, well, I think we all know, right? The Permian Basin area, definitely a big-time oil producer out there, and man, you can't walk 5 feet without finding an oil rig or a oil holding tank out there. Heard some sirens. All right, let's go back out of here real quick, see what's going on across Hawaii. Lighten up here slightly across the Pahala area. Nothing big coming in, just 2.4. No major changes out there across the Kilauea volcano, but I just want to double check and see. Which still sitting at a yellow and advisory, just due to you know, that large displacement of magma recently, and you know, some earthquake activity. But they're only putting out updates here every week, and this one looks like it was put out today. The volcano is currently not erupting. Low seismicity continues beneath the summit, and the southwest rift zones, while rates of ground deformation remain low. So no major changes out there. The deformation data, check this out here real quick and see what we got. A little bit of deflation going on. It may look like a lot on this chart, but these are very small numbers compared to what we had seen here. Well, it's been over a month ago when we seen that loss of inflation at the summit off to the southwest rift zone. So even a little dip like this is very minimal compared to what we had seen with a lot of magma being displaced there from the summit. All right, what else we got here for any activity? 1.8, California. There's a 1.6 up into the Alaska area. All right, let's see what's going on here in the space weather world. I know we're getting a couple big-time sunspots coming around. 3614, that's the old sunspot. 3590, again, that is the source, was the source of the largest X flare of the solar cycle. It does have a companion down south here, 3615. Let's check out the magnetogram image here. Shows the complexity. This one's getting a little bit of intermingling going on of all these colors showing complexity. You got to watch that one pretty closely. This one up here hasn't really changed much. It is a massive sunspot in general. And there's definitely some complexity going on here, but not quite as much as this area. It does look like we have some further development even behind these two. Notice this one up here and further out on the eastern limb. So it could play out to be an active period here that we're coming into in terms of the space weather activity. Pretty bright features out here on the UV filter. So we'll have to watch that as these sunspots come into view. Right now, 99% chance for C flare, M flare elevated at 40, and a decent chance of X flare probability at 5% chance or so. Currently flaring with a C2.1. No major coronal holes right now. We do have number 12. We'll watch that in coming days, see if that provides us with any type of space weather activity. Speaking of space weather, we do have a little bit of potential coming up around 18 to 24 UTC time. So that's going to put it at this time tomorrow. Probably not the preferred time frame to have space weather activity get elevated, at least on this side of the world. But there's a chance maybe seeing a G1 class storm up to the KP index of 5 or so, just from a glancing blow from a CME. I don't think it's a big one. Let's run over here and check and see what the Space Weather Prediction Center is talking about. So Earth in the green, the sun. There is a little bit of CME activity here. If you watch over here, just going to barely get, just barely a glancing blow from that CME. Not a big CME, and I'm really not expecting much. Last time this happened, you know, this expected barely a hit from a CME. It dodged us completely. So, you know, I don't expect much in terms of the potential of auroras over the next coming nights. But it's up there. That's what they're forecasting here, potentially, for tomorrow night and maybe the next night as well. All right, yeah, no major flares here in the last 24 hours. We did have that X 6.7 day or so ago. Let's check out the Storm Prediction Center. No major severe weather going on, just a little hint of some thunderstorm activity. This kind of looks like a whale out here, right? Kind of an odd shape, but some thunderstorm activity out there, maybe around the Four Corners area, but that's about it. Far as the, well, nothing going on out here in the tropics. It'll be interesting to watch this year and see how that plays out with the warmer temperatures out there. But far as the forecast models go, we've got some colder air dipping down into the eastern portion of the country. That's the blue lines here. Some snow up into the northern tier states. And, you know, it does look pretty wet down here across the south. California, we do have a rainmaker coming in next weekend. After that, looks like that storm's going to hang around for a little bit. This is a time to watch with these low pressures coming in. across the plain states, because we get a little interaction here between the cold and the warmer air, creating severe weather potential. So we'll have to watch that early next week, as we could be looking at severe weather potential across these areas once again. It's that time of year, unfortunately, but the best thing you guys could do is be prepared if you live out there. Another rainmaker out there across the area midweek next week, and it does look like that's going to keep the storm door open out there across the west coast. And each time these events come in, that spells potential severe weather activity out here across the plains, southern plains. So we'll continue to watch that. And of course, it's getting closer to the total eclipse date, which is coming up here on the 8th of April. I will be live streaming it. I'm going to have on my live stream, I'm going to have a view, probably in the corner, a zoomed in view with, of course, a filter on my camera of the sun being eclipsed by the moon, but also, similar to what I had in the last total eclipse there up in Oregon, a landscape view. That way you guys can see as the sun being eclipsed there in the corner. You can also watch how the landscape changes there from going light to dark, which is pretty cool. That's a little bit more of an interactive experience, but I'm also going to add that little corner section of the sun zoomed in. I know anyone can zoom in on the sun, right? And depending, you have the correct solar filter, and show that on the live stream. But I want to make it more interactive to where you guys can see and experience both, kind of both a visual perspective of what's going on around me. But I'll be out in Texas for that. Big state of Texas out there. I can't wait. I'm hoping that we will have clear skies. I mean, it's unfortunately, you get these events here, thunderstorms. Even after the storms move through, we got a lot of sometimes low-level moisture that sits around and just makes it a kind of like a foggy day out there. So I am hopeful that we'll have clear skies. Fingers crossed, right? I'm hoping. All right, don't forget, folks, again, Nature Watcher is my new channel. It's going to be at Nature Watcher, TEM. Of course, TEM stands for The Earth Master. And we're up to 168 subscribers. I appreciate those jumping on board. I would like to see that up a little bit. I will be adding nature videos, wildlife videos. I'm going to try to keep this in the high quality type stuff, and weather activity as well. Earthquake, volcano, space weather activity will be devoted to this channel that I'm on, the Earth Master channel right now. But I would like to start up another channel and experiment with some wildlife videos. I think it's pretty cool. I absolutely love wildlife and nature. But a lot of times my people, you are my people, the subscribers out there, not really interested in this stuff. So this channel right here, the Nature Watcher channel, is not for everyone that's on the Earth Master channel. So I want to separate the two and keep it legit in terms of the topics at hand here for each channel. So please go subscribe here to the Nature Watcher TEM. And we'll be definitely posting some nature videos, wildlife, and weather on this one. All right, folks, we will catch you guys back out here later today. Currently on spring break, so I don't have schoolwork going on here. I don't have any college stuff going on, so I'm happy about that. Going to go outside and maybe do a little bit more rototillering in the garden. I'm not going to plant yet. I'm not going to plant any seeds or anything for my garden yet because we have that cold spell coming up with some rain chances. So I got to wait for after that, and then we'll be good. But definitely going to be outside. I'm an outside guy, and that's where I'll be today. If you need me, I'll be outside. Have a good day, folks. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later. Remember, Nature Watcher, TEM.